Welcome back. We're starting lesson 5 today. Lesson 5 is the 5th key to success. And what was that about? Price and net. That's right, hey? And like I said, wow, you know, like we're more than halfway through the course.
Yeah.
Halfway was, so we had lesson 4 a week ago. Leave your notes alone for a second if you don't mind. Just leave that for a sec, please. We can just leave this. Okay, we're just going to stay focused here so we don't miss anything. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Yes.
So don't even look at your books for a minute. I have a few things I want to say, and then we're going to get into today's training. Sounds good? If you want to look at that, there's another one up here for at the break. It's already open for you, okay? All right, so I said, last week I said after the class, we're almost halfway through the class, the program, the 8-week program. And so about 3 days ago, you were halfway through. Didn't I say it can go fast?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, remember, we just did a free event a month or so ago, and then we had a couple weeks before we started lesson 1, and then I said to you, you know, the hardest part of the program is the morning of lesson 1, and we got you on teams, we got you organized. I says, you better make sure that you pay attention to your weekly activities and stay focused on the little things, because this is going to go fast. Before you know it, we're going to be halfway done.
Yeah.
Here we are, more than halfway done. Isn't that something? Okay, so, you know, if you, today you should definitely feel stronger than you did when you came into lesson 1. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Okay, so this week as I mentioned, we're going to talk price. So my main objective for today is to make sure that you become very strong on price and strong on the method of presenting price. Strong on the method of presenting price. In fact, when you're at that stage, so we did a little special presentation for you this morning on the listing presentation. And some of you are getting it, it's all prepared for you and all that kind of stuff. And if you recall, we went through the 7 steps. Before we did them, we told them what they were. And when we got to step 4, we went into the pricing segment on what we were going to do to put it on the net sheet. So that's what we're going to get into today. Fair enough? But remember what you said to them? Let me show you how most successful sellers pick the right price. Yeah, and so who's picking the price?
Sellers.
Sellers are. Most realtors don't do it that way. The ones that are trained will. I mean, even ones that maybe haven't taken my training but been around for 10 years and they maybe had, you know, had some other form of training, they'll say, well, here, let me show you what the sales are in the area. Let me show you. They won't just say, well, I can get you 500, so list with me today. You know, we'll come up with things like, you know, if a place is worth 500, and it shows that it's worth 500, and then the realtor maybe says, yeah, we should be fine at that price. I get that. But for them just to walk in and say, how much do you want? Well, we want 500. Well, I can get you more than that, you know, just to get the listing.
Yeah.
Well, that says a lot about that realtor, doesn't it? Yeah. So, all right, let's just, again, go back to last week just for a second. Last week, that was one of the best lessons ever. Why? Because we went over the listing presentation, the process, how to walk into a listing and walk out with the listing if you choose, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, that was very important. So don't ever underestimate the sales process, the 7 steps. It's very important, puts you in positive control. And remember that to master the qualifying questions, you need to find a problem. Otherwise, you know what, they just don't need you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Also, master the use of pre-planned marketing plans. So we did the taught last week the 5 areas that you need to let people know how you get the job done. And from today, we need to master the ability to present price. So let's just amuse the trainer for a second. Let's go over the introduction or the lead-in first of all. So we want to make sure we understood that we have our folder ready and we have our presentation. Could we just leave that for a minute if you don't mind? Just for the distraction. Thank you very much. And we can go over that at the break, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So we pull up in front of the house. We're dressed like what? And we park on the
Side of the
street
street.
and we're focused. And we walk to the front door and ring the bell. And once we see them, then we,
Smile.
right? And then pay them a compliment, take them to the
Kitchen table.
sit down and talk about anything but real estate, right? Once real estate is brought up, you move towards the sales process. And the sales process has how many steps? 7. The first step was a series of questions, find out what they want to accomplish. Second was preview the property, point out all the features, figure out what's going on. Third was come back to the kitchen table, go over the marketing plan, show them how you get the job done. And then the next one was show them how most successful sellers pick the right price, yes?
Yes.
And once they're sold on you and your company and you've figured out the price, they probably are just going to sign the forms. But if they don't want to sign the forms, you still show them, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you explain it to them so they can make a decision based on facts. Then you ask them if they have any questions. Then you make a mutual decision, figuring on how you're going to move forward, right? Remember those words, no problem, to help you to move forward. And then you go into the questions. And you had how many questions?
15.
15. And you write down the answers. And you ask for the order, question 15. Then you go and you preview the property like you told them you're going to do. Then you come back. And we taught all this stuff. Marketing plan last week. We went into the net sheet. But we told you today we'll show you how the pricing works for that. Sounds good?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into our 5th key to success. Which is what again?
Price.
And then
Price and
and
net. Taking a saleable listing, there's 6 truths. 6 truths. Number 1, saleable listings are the way to the top. And the reason they're on the way to the top, could you imagine if you had 10 listings? Let's figure right now you had 10 listings. And they all were priced right. How do you feel about that?
great.
They're all priced right. In fact, you just listed one and you looked at it and you went, this isn't going to last, this is gone. Has anybody ever had a listing like that where you just said, this is gone?
Yes.
You know, that's the one where I told you that even I had one like that years back, and I did an open house on a Tuesday at 4 p.m. and it sold by 5. It just happened to be, location was good, price was good, the traffic was good, a couple of sandwich boards that just said just listed at our open house. Now normally you wouldn't do that with a listing. You would probably do the open house on the weekend, you'd advertise it, remember we talked about that? But hey, I mean, when you say this is gone, wouldn't it be nice to double-end it if you're allowed to?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you make twice the what?
Money.
Money, twice the money in half the time. Makes you really happy, right? Just remember, there's certain fiduciary duties you have to be very careful with, and no, not nowadays. Most places, like some provinces and states, you have to have another realtor deal with the buyer, so that's one thing. Or here, you have to make your buyer a customer, and that doesn't apply to the fiduciary duties. So, if you had 10, now to get to 10, I want to just comment on that. To get to 10 listings, I'm not talking about just getting 10 listings and seeing what happens. I'm talking about if you're going to get to what I call level 3 in the business levels that I teach in our coaching program, for example, that's where you're carrying around 10 listings all the time. That would be where you would work hard to get 2 or 3 listings, but then 1 or 2 sell. So you had 3, now you have 1, because they sold. So let me just comment on something for a second. If you had 3 listings and 2 sold, is that a good problem or is that a bad thing?
Good.
It's a good thing. And I mean problem meaning trying to get 10 listings.
Right.
So here you are trying to get 10 listings. You got 3. You're like, yay, and 2 sell. And it's like, oh, darn, now I'm back to 1. It's good because I got some sales, but I'm still trying to get to 10. So you get to 3 and you get back to 1. Then you get 2 more and then 1 sells. So you got 3, 1, 3, and 2. But then you get 2 more. And this is a lot of work. Remember I said it's going to take you a while to build your business. Your business isn't built until you have about 10 or 15 listings. I would say. Because once you have 10 or 15, you'll do, if you have 10, you'll do at least $300,000 a year without having to make phone calls like proactively or door knock or do open houses. Who would like to do that? Who would like to not have to do all that stuff and not have to pay too much for advertising because you're getting a whole bunch of phone calls off of your yard signs? Who would like that? Okay, it's a few people didn't put up their hand. Okay, fine. So, if you think that I've had people where I said, how many of you would like to get business without being proactive, without paying for the lead? How many would like that? And now I got everybody's hand go up. Well, it doesn't quite work that way, but when you have listings and you have yard signs, people will call on your yard signs. So if you had 10 listings in Coventry Hills, 10 yard signs, how much do you think your phone would ring every day?
A lot.
At least once or twice. And if somebody phones, if you get 2 phone calls a day, that's the same as you reaching out to about 10 people.
Yeah.
So you'd save a whole bunch of time. You just have to use your call form, book your appointments, and you'd probably end up getting 3 listing appointments a week.
Yeah.
which would get you 1 listing a week. So in a month, you get 4 listings, but you're pricing them right, so 2 of them sold. The other 2 will probably sell soon too, but you still got to get other listings. So for about 6 months, you're working really hard to get how many listings?
10.
And when you hit 10, now to maintain them isn't as hard as getting there. So that's what I was trying to get at. Does that make sense? Once you're at 10, you're going to have 3 or 4 always selling, so you have to bring in 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might drop down to 8, then you go up to 12, and if you really push yourself, maybe you can get to level 4. From our level 4 coaching program, for example, that's when you carry around 15 listings. How many of you like to have 20 listings and they're selling and more are coming in? You know, and then if anybody says, I don't think I can do it, just have to ask you one question. Is there anybody at all in your real estate board that you know of that has 15 listings? Anybody at all? I mean, you may not know them personally, but if you looked on the stats, you would see that there's probably 5% of the list of the realtors in the board. So you have 6,000, let's say. 5% of 6,000 is how many?
300.
300 realtors that are probably carrying more than 10 listings all the time.
Yeah.
Question is, do you want to be in that group?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the question, right? So, let's go back here, and I was just talking about saleable listings are the way to the top. Expired listings basically just ruin your reputation, don't they?
Yes.
They just ruin your reputation. Why do they ruin your reputation?
Sorry, can you?
No, we're going to talk about one at a time,
Okay.
so that I got your attention, because everybody's right ahead, right? Yeah, and nobody's hearing anything. Because expired listings will ruin your reputation. Why?
Because people will think you are not doing enough advertising or
Or
celebrating.
the house.
So if somebody went to a client of yours where you tried to sell their house
Yeah.
and it expired and they couldn't move forward with their plans, the clients would say to them, what happened? And they would say, oh, we tried to sell it. We had the best realtor in town. He was awesome. He did his best job and we're going to try with him again and you should use him. Do they always say that?
No.
No, they never say that. They say something else. We used the worst realtor in town because he didn't sell it. We had it listed with him twice. And they're talking about how bad the listing agent is that didn't sell their place. So it's starting to ruin your reputation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. The next thing it says, advertising does not sell an overpriced listing. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Advertising is only meant for one thing. What is it?
To get it up.
Promoting it.
To get the phone to
Ring.
ring, that's it. Okay, I understand where you say promoting, maybe, but how much do you promote? So if you had a listing and it's a 2-bedroom bungalow and you put in the address and 2-bedroom bungalow, do you think you're going to get any phone calls? Probably not. First of all, they're going to drive by, so you shouldn't put in the address. Second of all, if somebody's looking for 3 or 4 bedrooms, are they even going to want to look at a 2-bedroom?
No.
No. So what if you put bungalow in a great location, it was a nice picture, didn't have very many details, you weren't promoting too much, but it still sounded like it was a good picture and it sounded pretty professional. Do you think you'd get more phone calls?
Yeah.
The guy that wants a 3-bedroom would still call because he doesn't know how many bedrooms it is. Another person might say it's in Southwest Calgary, but they don't know what neighborhood, so they call. So advertising is only meant to get the phone to ring. That's it. And who pays for your advertising? You should be, probably. Okay, so it won't help to sell any overpriced listing, that's for sure. The next thing is you need to have a basic marketing strategy. So your idea is that I'll only take a listing if I know it's going to what?
Sell.
So it needs to be saleable, so you know it's going to sell. Otherwise, there's no point in it, okay? So there's really nothing wrong with any listing that the right price and terms won't fix. So some of you may have an existing listing, yes? Okay, how many have listings right now? So it's about half the class. So we're going to talk about if you think it's overpriced in a moment, what to do about it, if we need to reposition it, or if it's fine because it's a brand new listing, what to watch out for. We're going to talk about that, okay? Just remember, we cannot do magic. You can't do magic. You can't sell a $500,000 house for $1 million. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, actually you could, I guess, if you went to the extreme. would you like me to show you how to sell a $500,000 house for $1 million?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So what you do is you advertise with the seller's permission that you're selling this place for $10 down, for $10 a month, for 1,000 years. Would you buy it if that was the case? Anybody here, would you buy it?
Yes.
I'd buy it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
$10 down?
Yeah.
$10 a month and rent it out for $2,500 a month? Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's not going to happen. But it did prove to you that terms, adjusting the terms to some degree can change price a little bit. You know? No, you can't get $500,000 more unless somebody, no seller would ever do that, obviously. That's just being ridiculous there, what I was saying. But just remember, we don't do magic. So do not take a listing just for the sake of taking a listing. So if somebody wanted $500,000, I'll just go with this show of hands. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. And it'll kind of gauge you. If you're new, you'll probably take a listing that's more overpriced than a veteran top producer. Does that make sense? Why would a new person maybe be more flexible with that? It's because they really want to get some business. They're really eager. Whereas a top producer, they already have some business and they don't want to ruin their time management by taking something that's just they're going to regret. So then the newbie does it, and then they realize after a few months that they shouldn't have done that, and they stop doing it. But if you're in my course, you don't have to learn the hard way. They say a smart person learns from their mistakes. But a wise person learns from
Other people's mistakes.
Other people.
you can learn from my mistakes or the other students in the past. You just have to say, well, that's what he said in the training, I'm just going to do that. So don't take any listing unless, I'm going to show you, unless it's priced right, right terms, right length of time, okay? So we're going to talk about, so how many of you have a listing right now that's probably overpriced? So, you have quite a few listings, that's why you put up your hand. A few other people put up their hands, but when I said, is it overpriced, they didn't put up their hand. And that means it was probably listed in the last 48 hours. Because all I have to do is say this. Ask yourself, if a property is priced right, doesn't matter where it is, doesn't matter price range, if it's priced right, you guys tell me, how fast should you get an offer? If it's priced right, in today's market even.
Within 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, let's say within a week or two for sure, right?
Less than a week.
Would you say?
Yeah.
Less than a week.
Yeah, maybe less than a week. And the market's not even a hot market anymore.
No.
But if it's priced right, you should get an offer within a week or two for sure.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is ask yourself, are any of my listings older than 2 weeks?
Yes.
Yes.
So instead of me asking who has an overpriced listing, I'm going to say, put up your hand if you have a listing that's been on the market more than 2 weeks. Okay, so more hands went up. You know, if it's been on the market only 2 weeks, the only other way you put up your hand is if you didn't have any showings in the first 2 weeks, then it's also overpriced. So let's talk about getting some price reductions, but I want you to actually think of a different word. We'll try this again. There we are. Ooh. There, we got everyone's attention, right? But the price reduction, when you call a seller and say, we have to talk about reducing the price, they're not too happy.
Right.
So I want you to change some of the wording. First thing I want you to do is right up top on one of your pages, write the word reposition. Okay, write the word reposition. You know what time the food's coming?
12:30.
Perfect. So I'm going to teach you how to talk to a seller about getting together to reposition a property if you have one that wasn't saleable, or maybe you thought it was but the market dropped so quick that now it's not saleable. Make sense?
Yes.
Is the market dropping?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And will it continue to drop according to the forecast from your
Yeah.
board?
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I'm just curious, how long do they figure it's going to drop in this area?
Till about February,
January?
March.
Till January?
Around then.
They're
I
saying
think it's a lot more than that.
June, July.
And
Yeah.
then it might just go on.
Yeah.
So we're looking at about a year for sure.
Yeah.
And only way it would go level off or go up is if interest rates went
Down.
So all you have to do is ask yourself, have I heard that interest rates are going down soon? Are they?
No.
Not even anywhere near soon. Like you're talking, just so you folks know, they're talking 7 to 8%
Yeah.
coming up in a few years here. So, but that doesn't matter. We still will do real estate and we'll still help people, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So, back on this, we got a listing, let's say it's $600,000, and the comps were just under 600, so we probably should have found a way to get them to list lower than 600, but we didn't. Then the market dropped again. So here we are, if we look at our arm, and this is the market. Now from your side it would be like this. So this is the market, it's dropping. Maybe it's dropping like that. But just to give an extreme version, visual, let's say the market's dropping. If you list here, by the time we're 2 weeks later, we're here and the price is down here. And then everyone's trying to chase the market. They go here, and just as they get to here, the times move, so now they're here. So they're constantly chasing the market. And they need to be on the other end of it, underneath. Try that visual, just go like this with your arm, and go, this is chasing the market, and this is getting ahead of the market. So that's how you would explain it to a client. We got to get ahead of the market. So when you give a price to someone, or when you guys figure out a price based on the comps, the comparables, write this down somewhere, are best case scenario. Not a place to start from. They are the best case scenario. So if my highest comparable, so Arbaz and Dick Shaw, we are going to still talk to you as if you're sellers at the table here throughout the rest of the day sort of thing for pricing.
Okay.
So you'll throw back some numbers and answers to me. I'll walk you through it though, it's really easy. But we talked about your place 400-ish, right?
Yeah, 400-ish.
And when I showed the comparables, you said, it looks like we might be a little high in our thinking, we shouldn't be higher than 400.
Right.
Right, so this is 400 right here. If we go right here, 399 or 398 or 395 or 390, we're ahead of the market. And we could get 6 or 7 people come and see it, and all of them want it. And we're priced here. And if all of them want it, and it creates a multiple offer situation, what kind of offers might we get?
Over 4.
Overpriced.
Over. See what I mean, how that works?
Right.
If we're here, we might get no offers or low offers.
Correct.
So see the visual?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's just you talking while you're talking. Yeah, you know, we could be, and you don't want to look like it's all canned or something. It's just you being yourself, and you're just kind of showing it that way. So we want to be ahead of the market. But if the market, you know, if we don't get something, then you know maybe we didn't come in low enough, and now we have to get under the next because it's still dropping. Still dropping. Interest rates went up 70. They call it 75 points or something.
Correct.
And that was, what, a month or two ago? And they're talking about it again in January, but I think it's 50. The next
Right.
one is what I heard. Then I heard possibly another 75 in the spring, but 50 probably for sure. And then they're thinking, we'll see what happens. Well, I can tell you right now, just looking back at the history in the last 30 years, that I know what they're trying to do now, and they're going to try to do it for another 6 months after that. That's my opinion, though, because that's not in the forecast. So I feel that we're going to go from 5.25 to about 7 by the time by this early part of 2024. Okay? That doesn't matter. We're just talking to the people about how it works. How do we get ahead on the market, right? So let's say we took the listing here, and we listed yours at 425. We're above the market value
Yes.
because they need room to negotiate, which is really going to hurt them a lot. So they don't get any showings for 2 weeks. Now, by the time the 2 weeks is up, the least you could have done on the appointment is agreed that we will reposition the property in 2 weeks if we don't get anything. And so hopefully they agreed on that. And when that happens, I would put together a couple of forms. Now, I want you to put in brackets. I want you to, like it's called the 2 forms technique, but underneath the 2 forms, put 1 form as well, okay? Just put 2 forms and then 1 form. All right, and when you got that, just put up your hand quick, so I know you got it. Okay? Everyone's got it? Okay. So I'm showing you how to either use 2 forms for a certain type of seller or 1 form for another type of seller, so that we're clear on that. The 2 forms, if you want to just, yeah, well, we'll just follow what comes up on the PowerPoint. I was going to get you to write it down separate, but the 2 forms are for a seller that was never really nice to you in the first place. You went on a listing appointment, they're giving you a hard time, and they said, we'll give it to you if you go at 450. and you know it should have been 400, and you're new, let's say, and the guy's calling you every day, and they even are really abusive, and you just said, I wish I never took this listing, and I'll tell you what to do with that seller. But it takes two forms. And the one form technique is for somebody that is actually really nice to you. They're nice to work with, you want to continue to work with them. Maybe the market shifted too quick for you, or you just didn't have the strength or the training to get it priced right in the first place. But you really want to stay with them, and they want to stay with you. So when I teach the two forms first, I'll tell you which form you don't use for the people that like you and that you like. Fair enough?
Yes.
All right. So the first thing we do is you want to have a meeting with other people in your office on your listings, you know, like property exchange. So if I had a listing, that's been on the market for a couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, I announced it at the office meeting that I have a new listing in Happy Hills. It's listed at $399. And if anybody has a buyer, give me a shout. I can tell you a bit about it and set up a showing for you. Sounds good? And then the next person does their property exchange at the meeting, right? Now it's 2 weeks later, and when it came to property exchange, I might have said, you know, that listing I had a couple weeks ago, the market's changed quite a bit. I thought our price was good. I'm thinking we should probably be at a different price. I'm going to talk to my clients about repositioning the property. Anybody have any suggestions? So you may sit down with a few people. They might say you should be at 380, let's say, or you know, something to be ahead of the market, right? So you got advice from other realtors in your office. Even if they say exactly what you know, you need that to be true. So when you're presenting to the seller, you can say, I talked with a group of realtors about your property. Fair enough?
Yes.
Now, for the seller that's from HE double hockey sticks, if you know what I mean, the ones that are just abusive, literally, you're going to want to talk to your broker. You're going to want to meet with your broker as well. And you're going to want to say, listen, I don't think I should have took this listing. I can't get him to come down. But worse than that, if I do try, they're very abusive and they're very mean, and I just don't like working with them. So I need your permission to let them know that we could release them if they don't want to make it more saleable, and they can use somebody else, because I'm okay with that. But I really need you to help me with this, because they're just not nice. And you know, if you talk to your broker, they might say they want to get rid of that listing. They may still want you to try. I get that. Or they may say, well, how bad is it really? And they say, oh, really bad. You know, okay, because the broker has to authorize a what?
Release.
Cancellation, release, or termination. Okay. So you got to talk with a couple realtors about what it should be priced at, and you got to talk to your broker if you're able to do that. And if they're nice people, you don't even talk to your broker about canceling it. You just try to get it price reduced, okay? There's none of you that deserve to be abused. Verbally, physically probably would never happen. You never know, I guess, but verbally, you know,
You shouldn't be.
you could get abused pretty good verbally in this business, you know. And so you fill out the two forms. So one is called an amendment to the listing agreement, and the other one in this neck of the woods is called what? Like to terminate, what's it called? Anybody know what the form is called?
Termination form.
If you don't know, that's good, because don't have a bunch of them in your desk or something, you know. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention something about forms. When we did the special presentation today, and I don't mind adding it to this segment as well, when you're doing the forms, nowadays you have DocuSign.
Right.
Yeah.
And a couple of realtors are doing this, and you tell me if this is better or not, okay? So they get to the forms, and they explain them, and then they say, what I'll do is I'll head back to the office, and I'll put them into DocuSign, and I'll send them over to you. Then you just have to click your mouse, and your signature will go on automatically, and then you can send it back to me. We could do it digitally. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And most realtors do that, right?
yeah,
And I'm going to let you know that you should never do that,
right.
okay? Yeah, they'll change their mind.
Yeah.
So if you're in person, make sure you print off all the documents and get them to sign, then go back to the office and scan them, and you have them printed off and do all that. Now, if you want to use DocuSign, make sure you have your computer with you. Make sure that they sign it right in front of you at the appointment. Never ever leave your appointment and send it to them later. A couple reasons why. They might change their mind. Or you'll spend days trying to track them down. It will absolutely drive you nuts.
Yeah.
So don't do that at all. And some people will say, oh, I do it all the time, it saves me time. Yeah, but you know, if you really let them answer properly, they'll say, yeah, there's some people, I'm like 2 weeks later, or 3 days, 4 days later, I have to actually change the dates on them.
Yeah,
Oh, it's very draining, isn't it?
very true.
Yeah, so get them signed, okay? So same as this, you don't call the list, you don't call the broker and say, I have an amendment for you, I'm gonna send it to you. You need to go over there and see them. So fill out the forms on web forms and put in their name and everything and print them off.
Right.
It's well worth it. Anybody who loves technology would totally disagree with me. So if you disagree with me, at least disagree with me on printing them off, not on when you get them to sign. Like take your iPad with you, with your DocuSign, and get them to sign it right on your iPad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not send it to them later. So we all can agree that we need to get them to sign and meet them in person. And now if the exception happens and you have to send it to them, maybe you can bring it up on Zoom.
Yeah.
Remember, every time we use technology to replace things that were working, it works against us. We want to use it to enhance. So we would take an iPad with us, right? And we just say, here, just click here, push here, and it's all done. The email goes to them, it goes to us, and we're all done. Do it in person, right? And anyways, you fill out your forms or get them ready on your tablet. Call the owner. Hi. Yeah, Joe, it's Dwayne, ABC Realty. I just wanted to set up a time to come by and talk to you about repositioning your property. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Or if you didn't talk about it, just say I was thinking about what's going on with your listing. You were like when you talked to them yesterday, if it's the 2 forms client, they were giving you a hard time and you're stressed out. If it's the 1 form client, then they just said maybe we need to get together. Or they might say whatever you need, let us know, or they're being cooperative, okay? So you set up an appointment. Let's set aside a time where I can come over and talk about repositioning the property. Everybody wrote down that word nice and big on your thing? Reposition is the key. All top producers say the word reposition, 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 not reduce, not reduce, not reduce, reposition. Okay, so you call the owner, you go over there. Now, when you pull up in front of the house, you park on the street, make sure you're focused. Walk to the front door, ring the bell, and then when you see them,
Smile.
not too big because they're not happy. So maybe just a nice, middle, smile. And when you see them, maybe a quick little sincere compliment. Thanks for having me. It was nice talking to you on the phone or whatever. And then take them to the kitchen table, sit down. And when you're listing a property, you talk about anything about real estate, except this time you got to get right into it. They're ready, okay? So you sit down, and then you present the termination first. If it's a 2-form seller, that's the seller from HE Double Hockey Sticks. If it's a 1-form seller, which is a nice seller, you want to work it out, you really like each other, get along, then you do not have a termination. Everybody understands that?
Yes.
Okay, go back to the termination one. We haven't been getting along for a while. It's been pretty stressful for me, so I sat down and I talked to my broker. And I told him that, we're not getting along, and him and I both